All right, Amazon is out with earnings after the bell. These came in better both in earnings and on overall sales. $148 a share, $35.7 billion in total sales here, both better than expected. In case you're keeping track, the stock is up an additional 4% in after hours trading. Jeff Bezos, given that 4% run-up, is about $3 billion richer, which would put that net worth of his up to around $80 billion. But, you know, after the first $5 or $6 billion, do you really keep track? I could ask the same of this next gentleman, but I'm not going to pore over his wealth. Steve Ballmer is the former CEO of Microsoft, the LA Clipper owner, probably biting his nails over the Clippers right now, but I'm not even going to get into that. But Steve Ballmer, very good to have you.
Great to be here, Neil. Thanks very much.
Let me ask you a little bit, I mean, before we get into what you're interested in, and that is government accountability, which is a great idea, by the way. But on technology and on these markets and what's propelling them, your old company as well, what is going on here?
I don't know, Neil. I really don't know. You know, there's obviously a lot of enthusiasm about what technology can do going forward. I got to admit, I'm an old-fashioned guy. I look at earnings, and earnings are okay, but valuations just keep going up, 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 and who knows what's really getting investors all worked up.
Yeah, they are getting worked up, to your point, though, and I know, you know, with Wall Street's run-up and a lot of the money that makes its way to Washington as a result, I guess that's the wind at everyone's back here, but you're concerned about where the money goes, period, once it gets to Washington, right? And how did you, with this USAFacts.org, how did you get into this, that you wanted to keep track of where our money goes?
Well, when I retired from Microsoft, my wife and I were having a discussion about my involvement in our philanthropic activities focused in on kids in disadvantaged situations. And I said to my wife, come on, we need to pay our taxes. That's the most important thing, because, you know, if we pay our taxes, just what we owe, no more, no less, the government's going to take care of the poor, the sick, the old, and it's too big a problem for philanthropic resources. And she said, come on, there's got to be some great stuff we can do. But it was in my head, Neil. I just had to know where the government was really spending its money and how much was going to help that constituency. And I got into it, and I'm searching around hither and yon on the internet, and it's really hard to find things. And I said, gosh, I wish there was something like a corporate 10K where I could just read. And there birthed the idea for me of doing something like a 10K, and that's where we went with USAFacts.org.
And where does it stand now? What have you discovered?
There is so much out there. On our website, we do a couple different things. We give people access to a lot of data, but we do, in fact, organize it. We organize it the way a business would into key segments of government activities defined by the Constitution. We show you key revenue streams, where the money gets spent, and what kind of outcomes. If you want the simplest version, we've got a summary annual report up there. You just can kind of walk through it, and you know, you'll see what you'll see. But I think it's important for people to have the broad context. Otherwise, every number is just pick out of thin air.
I like the way you've done it, and what I have seen, and I think it always occurred to me that, you know, when we get these budget and these statements out of various agencies, what their budget, what they're committed to, we have no idea whether it's going to those outcomes. And it raises another issue in the aggregate that's neither left or right, Republican or Democrat. But I always say to people, whether you want to raise taxes or lower taxes, is the money that we have allocated going to the institutions we allocated it? In other words, is it going where we're told it's going? Have you gotten any sense of that?
Yeah, I think I have, actually. You know, one of the things about government, and we just have to understand it, is the money's what I would call fungible. It can move different places. So even though there's a certain amount of money dedicated to Social Security and Medicare, if that's underfunded, the rest of the tax revenue pays for it. If you're going to build a bridge in the state of Washington, there can be federal money that comes pouring in. But I think if you look at it in aggregate, it's hard to know whether it's going where the taxpayer thought it should go, but it's pretty clear where the money's going. what the big buckets are. You got to love Social
Is it going to those
Security
allocated
and Medicaid.
buckets? Because you mentioned Social Security, and this sort of fear that I have is that when everyone says Social Security is in relatively good shape, and I hear about these reports that there are a lot of IOUs of Social Security, so I don't know whether the piggy bank is rated there, and the same applies to other agencies, and it ultimately goes back to those agencies. What's the truth on that?
Well, what we do on the site is we just forget about this trust fund, blah, blah, blah. We just do a good old-fashioned P&L. Does the money in cover the money going out? And the picture there is negative.
Really?
We are now starting to pay out more than we're taking in. Any businessman would understand that's not a sustainable operation, particularly when the percentage of people who work is going down.